Hi, welcome to MediatorPodcast.com, a podcast and video series about mediation, negotiation, and collaboration. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation and divorce mediation services in St. Louis, Missouri. During this episode, we will discuss leadership, team coaching, and conflict resolution for business with Ben Papa. He's actually a leadership coach and Enneagram teacher in Nashville, Tennessee, but works with companies and clients around the country. What is Enneagram or an Enneagram personality test, and how is it helpful for what you're doing, which is kind of business coaching, team coaching, and conflict resolution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Enneagram that we use today, pulls together a bunch of really ancient traditions that I won't bore you with unless you're interested. Some psychologists and psychiatrists in the 1960s kind of set up what we now call the Enneagram based on a variety of different wisdom traditions and different things that have happened in the past, and kind of updated it for then 20th century sensibilities. So it is a personality assessment in a sense. What's different about the Enneagram, what makes it unique, is it is the only tool out there that measures core internal motivation. So the difference across those 9 types that you see on there is the internal motivation, whereas most behavioral assessments like Myers-Briggs or DISC or other ones are measuring behavior. And they're helpful, and I use other assessments besides the Enneagram in my work with clients, but the Enneagram really feels like you get the most bang for your buck because it animates everything you do in your whole life, at work, at home, everything. And so when I work with people and they are learning kind of what this core animating force is that drives kind of everything they do, and you can see the different needs on the slide there, there's a lot of self-awareness that can come from that, internal self-awareness to really recognize the strength that goes with their number and make sure that they're leveraging it. Because sometimes people don't know their strengths or think they know, and they're trying to leverage something that isn't really theirs to leverage, or they're just missing their strengths. Or similarly on weaknesses, some numbers on the Enneagram are prone to ignore their weaknesses and want to blow that off, and it gets in their way of their effectiveness at work, professionally and personally. It also helps you understand how other people on your team roll, like what's driving them, and how to kind of work with them more effectively. If you know kind of what's going on inside of them at a deeper level, you A, understand them better, and B, it gives you some concrete tools for sort of how to meet them where they are. And so when I work with teams, a lot of what I do is sort of assess what the different types are on a team. Are they clustered together in certain ways that I can kind of point out to them? Are they lopsided in terms of their strengths? Are there blind spots that seem to be consistent across the team? Are there individual team members that have unique points of view that are at risk of being drowned out by the energy of the other numbers? We want to make sure we're hearing them because they're saying something that's special and unique that team could miss. So just different things like that, depending on what's going on with an individual or with a team. That's the short version of kind of how I use it, but it's really around self-awareness, collaboration, those kinds of things.
Well, and I think the interesting part that you said that I just want to reiterate, it is the core motivation. And so when we're looking at like the psychology of a person, and I thought that it was also interesting that it's the core motivation for all aspects of their life, not just business, not just, personal, but it's really understanding how a person works in order to then understand how you work and how you guys can work together. Mm-hmm. And we don't always know that when we just see a person, right? We're like, oh, you must be a 5, like that's not going to happen. So there is a test that you can go about to try to figure out who you are on the spectrum, right? And does it matter the test modality or?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of tests, and some are way better than others. And so I always tell people to sort of approach those tests with a grain of salt. When you're measuring something as deep and complex as your core internal motivation, it's really hard to get an assessment that is super statistically valid and reliable. There is one that I send my clients to that was created by he's actually a clinical psychologist, professor at Loyola University, a research psychologist, and he developed this assessment years ago. And it is more statistically valid and reliable than most of what's out there. Even still, though, when people take that, I tell them to treat the report as a data point. And you really need to like sit with it yourself to see if it resonates, really reflect honestly with yourself. Is this resonating? Working with a coach or somebody else that can help debrief it with you, that knows the Enneagram, certified in the Enneagram, and can tell you, because a lot of numbers can look the same. For example, 1s and 3s can look very similar in terms of how they behave. Their behaviors from the outside can look similar. They're doing it for very different internal reasons. And that's what makes a 1 a 1 or a 3 a 3. And there's all different kinds of things that are happening for them that from a development perspective, you want to know the difference because it's a big difference. But if you're just looking at behavior, you're going to miss that. So that's what, so the assessments are useful, but you want to make sure you're not mistyping yourself by reading an assessment. And you're never 2 or 3 numbers. Some assessments that are out there will come back and say, you're a 4, a 2, and a 9. Or whatever. So that's not how it works. It's true that we all have some of all 9 numbers within us, but the theory that drives this system is there's one dominant energy, one dominant Enneagram ego strategy that you have adopted, and you're going to use that. And it's not there's a lot of variety within the numbers that we can talk about if you're interested in that. So it doesn't peg you into a box, which is one of the things I like about it. There's a lot of room for people to move and look differently in lots of different ways, even within the 4 corners of their own number. But everybody is a number in this system and not 2 or 3 or 5 numbers.